Hello everyone and welcome to our LinkedIn Live. I'm Tilly, Marketing Manager at Launch, and today I'm catching up with the very talented Alice, our Paid Social Manager. Alice is going to give us a very useful update on Meta Ads, specifically the AI automations. All of that is going on behind the scenes when you set up Meta Ads. Some of it's useful and some of it is not as useful. But I'll hand over to Alice now to explain more. If you've got any questions, just drop your comments below, and we'll answer those at the end.
Thank you, Tilly. Yes, we are doing It's Not You, It's Meta. All of the weird and some wonderful AI enhancements that Meta has introduced in the last sort of year, 18 months, 6 months. Some of them you might be familiar with, and some of them you might have never come across before. We're going to break it down from campaign to ad set to ad level. So as we go through, there might be some that have been around for longer that you're familiar with, and some that are new. Also, if there's ones that you've come up with that I don't mention, please mention them in the comments, because one of the things is that they are always coming out and we don't get notified of them. So sometimes you just find them as you're building. So to kick off, in 2026, meta bugs are worse than ever. Anyone who's ever worked in Meta Ads Manager will have said this at some point. You will have, in a very infuriated tone, said it to someone that you work with or just to yourself while you're building them. So we're going to start with budgets initially. So whilst this isn't so much necessarily a bug, it's more an update to Meta that, again, we weren't told about. And if you haven't spotted it, you can occasionally fall into this trap. So the first thing is, obviously, you've got campaign level budgets and ad set level budgets. If you are building it at ad set level, there is also an option where it says share some of your budget with other ad sets. And the problem is once you select this, you can't then unselect it. And it's the same thing with when you select your budget type, you can't then go back and change it. So you have to make sure that when you select your budget type, that's what you want, because otherwise all your hard work will be completely undone and you've got to build it from scratch, which is really frustrating, especially because all of us are short on time. So it's important that we get things right the first time. Also, when you're setting up a campaign, you will get this option to use the recommended settings. I'm not a fan of this. Recommended settings, it gives you less control over your audience, your budgets, and your placements, and it does also turn enhancements on automatically. So it's just giving you more tripwires, more things to get caught out by. So I would really recommend that you go for manual settings. The screenshot that I've included is for a traffic campaign, but this is across campaign types. So I would recommend that you always go manual, because it just gives you more control, and it means that there are certain settings that you may want to turn back on, and that's great, but do it within your control. When we get to ad level setup, again, it's a similar concept where, again, here we're looking at a traffic campaign on the left and a conversion campaign on the right. So the traffic campaign, for example, when you select your performance goal, I think this has changed. When you used to go in and build a traffic campaign, it used to automatically set it to link clicks, and then it's changed it to landing page views. But also, I might be wrong, so if you've seen something else, please let me know. And it's definitely changed on conversions. With performance goal, it used to automatically set to maximize number of conversions, and it's now value. So just double check, because again, once you publish, you can't then go back and change your performance goal. So just double check that if you're, for example, optimizing towards maximizing number of conversions, you haven't accidentally had it auto set to maximize value, because it's just really annoying to have to go back and redo things. Okay, so I hope there are no kids watching, because the next thing is a little bit grown up. So we're talking about, again, still ad level setup. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the inventory filters. These are automatically set to expanded inventory, and this is for in-content ads and audience network ads. Absolutely make sure you double check this and turn it down to moderate. I would say unless you have a very specific reason, you don't need to go down to limited. But by being on expanded, it means you can end up seeing your ads alongside content that can be harmful or just not very nice, and it can then completely misalign with your brand. But whereas with moderate, it should take away the most extreme content, and therefore your brand, it shouldn't be aligned with anything that you don't want it to be. So we're now getting into ad level. So these are specific bugs that I've come across. Again, as I said at the beginning, if you have seen any others, please let me know, and then we can chat about them in the end. So all of these ones that I'm pulling up are examples that we've come across in the wild with our own ads that haven't gone live. We've caught them before, but they are ones that we've been caught out by. So for example, why are my ads being shown in Spanish? They're not Spanish, they're English.
Does this happen quite a lot, Alice?
This one does happen quite a lot. I found that what's interesting is some accounts have bugs that just happen to pop up more, and some accounts are almost completely bug-free. And from all the digging I've done and from the very unhelpful conversations that I've had with Meta sometimes, we don't really have an explanation as to why some accounts are more AI leaning and some accounts aren't. It's just the way that they are, which is why you learn the more accounts you work on that, okay, this one I've got to spend another 15 minutes just going through checking that everything's turned off before I set anything live. So if you've got Spanish coming up when your text was in English, because you've got the Advantage Plus creative translation turned on, so you can see it in the screenshots here. It will come up at the bottom underneath. It's a separate one to turn off. So when you turn off your Advantage Plus creative enhancements, it's another one to turn off. And you need to make sure that you turn off all the languages because it comes up with a multitude of different ones. The concept behind this is quite good. It's that the thought behind it is if Meta detects that language, so for example, Spanish being used on your phone, it will translate the ad so it's in your language, but it's not picking up correctly on what language is being used on the phone, which means that with the example that we had come up, it would have just shown in Spanish to everyone. So thankfully, again, didn't go live, but it would have been a real problem if these ads went live in Spanish, because obviously you would see it if you don't speak Spanish, which I don't, you would then not click on it. So it's very important to make sure that this one's turned off.
Okay.
So I've added a frame to my dynamic product ad, but the client can't see it. Again, this is a little sneaky one that they've added in. It's hidden. You can see that I've got advanced hide options. So it's hidden below a drop down. Make sure you tick always show. For some reason, Meta thinks that it may reduce performance. Personally, I've never seen that adding frames and adding borders to your DPAs does that. I find it really benefits them because it can also really push your branding and really make it so that your ads look more native in platform.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
You've then got why is old creative being shown? This one can be particularly frustrating if you maybe run a lot of different offers or if you're maybe switching your creative up all the time. This can be a really frustrating one. Additionally, if you are changing your offers a lot, so let's say in June you're running a 30% offer and then in July you're only running 20%. If your account is showing a 30% offer, but your website is only showing 20, that can flag up to Meta as false advertising, which then could potentially lead to problems with your account and potentially you not being able to advertise on there. So it's really important to check that related media shown in the screenshot here below feed, story, etc., that's turned off just by clicking the bin icon, because you don't want all creative showing up. And it's much better anyway, I believe, to run multiple different ads with different creative. Again, it gives you a lot more control. It gives you a lot better insights when you come to do reporting. I've turned off enhancements, but relevant comments are still turned on. Again, this is Meta doing a little sneaky one and is breaking out the optimizations into essential, and all. So at the top of, oh good, you can see my mouse. At the top of this one, if you click, if you toggle off all optimizations, it won't turn off these ones at the bottom. So you then have to scroll down and turn all of these off individually by clicking each one.
Right.
It's really frustrating. And I think one of the things that I also want to stress, having gone through these, is some of these optimizations are good. Some of them can really work for accounts. However, I would say you need to test them. You need to check with your client, and you need to be 100% sure what you're using and why. Don't just toggle on, for example, add music without checking, because we've had examples where heavy metal has come up for a jewelry brand, and that's not appropriate. So some of these can be good if it's in a controlled environment. I would always suggest A/B testing. So for example, enhancing the call to action. We've seen this work well for clients. For example, as you can see there, it's coming up with tap to start shopping rather than shop now. But that was done in a controlled test environment, so we could really see the impact it was making.
Yeah.
So I would really recommend testing things. Have these discussions with your clients. Be like, oh, we've looked into optimizations and we've seen that we could add in music, or we could change the call to actions, or we could add in store locations. And if your client's up for it, then sure, test it, but don't test everything at once, because then you don't know what made the difference. And make sure that you have those conversations.
And do you, like, approximately how long would you have to run the tests for, do you think, before you kind of...
I would always suggest with any tests like this, again, it's kind of a weird how long it's a piece of string, but I would say minimum you're looking at sort of 7 to 10 days, ideally more like 10 to 14. So those were the main optimizations I had to run through. I didn't know if there have been any questions. I haven't seen them pop up.
I haven't seen any questions yet. There may be some later. I was going to ask, when do you get notification from Meta when they're adding new AI enhancements, or
no,
do you just find them?
This is one of the really frustrating things, is they can just appear from nowhere. Sometimes they can be applied retroactively to ads already live, which is why it's really important to make sure that you take the time during the week to go in and check your ads, just to make sure that everything looks as it should, because I have had it personally where things have been applied after ads have been published and approved and checked and then checked again, and then something has been turned on at a later date. So it's really important to make sure that you're checking your ads regularly. And I would say just make sure anytime you build, go through, have a look. If you're building ads regularly, you should be familiar with most of these, but just make sure that you do go through and familiarize yourself with them. They're not scary if you know what you're dealing with.
Okay, thank you. And I was also going to ask, do you think, obviously AI is improving all of the time, do you expect this to have improved a lot by, say, Q4, or do you think it's going to take a little bit longer?
I think Q4 might be ambitious. I would also be particularly cautious with rolling any of this out in peak periods, unless you've tested it. Again, always come back to testing. I'm a big fan of testing.
Yeah.
So I would be very cautious with rolling any of this out in Q4. Okay. I do think we are looking at maybe in the next, anywhere, I'd say probably in the next 2 to 5 years, I think we will see this improve dramatically. And I do think we will see that it will actually benefit our ads. I think at the moment, the problem is that the way the AI is learning is by being live, which unfortunately means that it then gets it wrong with ads that are live. So I think in time, things like the creative translation, I think will be really good, and I think will make a really big difference, and we'll see things like click-through rate improve and conversion rate improve. But I think at the moment it's only going to hinder your ads, and I would say it's one that just keep an eye on it. I know there's Meta's got its own AI image generation that it does using pre-existing images from your client, from your image database, and it's one that I sort of every maybe 6 weeks I check in and just see how it's looking. Personally, it's still not at the point where I would feel comfortable bringing it to a client and saying, let's run with this. But keep an eye on it, because you never know, in 6 weeks, in 12 weeks, in 6 months, it might be, oh, do you know what? This actually looks good. And I'd actually be able to run this, and that could potentially really cut down on your time. And then you could use it for more reporting or more testing. So it's definitely one to check in regularly to see where you're at.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alice. Well, in the meantime, this has provided us with lots of tips to kind of overcome all the hurdles and make the most of budget. Got a download of your points as well. I will share a little QR code here. So if anyone wants a summary in a PDF format, there it is. Just click the QR code above. Okay. Any questions? Don't have any more, but like I said, if you have any after this, if you're watching on catch up, if you just post them below, we'll get back to you. And if you want to get in touch with any of our team to talk about your meta ads, please visit our website. Thanks, Alice.
Thanks, Tilly.